Good evening. We are looking at a view of our sun, and real close here, we're looking at the filament that let go yesterday, and you can see it just kicking off here. But if you're looking real close, it's pushing sideways. It's coming out toward us, but it's got a real sideways motion to it. So predictions thus far are going to be off. It has gone sideways. Now, looking at a view of our sun right now, we have some coronal holes building in here. We're getting the coronal hole stream for this. That's going to give us a little bit of a tickle. It's not a very strong coronal hole. It's enough to keep us up and ticked between a 2 and a 3. We have a slight coronal hole trying to build in here. We have 2 coronal holes coming right before the sunspots that are following. That's good news. Okay. Here are our active sunspot regions: 3429, 3436, and 34. I can't remember the other number right there, is right there. And 3433, or yeah, 3433 is right up here. And 3434 is down here. 3436 is right here. Here is where we have the big sunspots coming around. If you look here, we have one sunspot region here, but if you look, there's something around the limb over here you can't quite see. Got a small region right here that's just rotated in view, but we've got something coming in behind it. This is what we need to be paying attention to. That's the players that you want to be looking at. Okay, so we're going to go over here. You're going to have to forgive me. I'm jumping around a little bit. Looking at sunspot regions. 3434, down here, it isn't much. 3429 is down to a beta. 3436 is a new one that's developing in. It's kind of growing. And 3433 is up here, and it is now a beta class. 3435 is now into view, and we can see it has an additional umbra. And 34, what is that one? Oh, I don't think they got it numbered. Oh, they don't have it numbered yet. Well, we have a small sunspot here. They haven't got numbered yet. Must be they haven't got it fully into view, but there's something right here. We have something right behind it that we're seeing the umbral loops from right in here. And when you look at the view of 34, oh, geez. Now let me do it. When you look here at the view of this, you can see that there's right back in here. You can begin to see the start of another sunspot region just behind it, kitty cornered. So there is another region coming in behind it. Most of the regions are beta class now and capable of producing anything, but we're kind of seeing a quieting down after that filament took the edge off things. And you can see this in our flaring. We've got one slight pop in here, and it has pretty much all quieted down. And I think that will stay quiet until 3433 ticks over tomorrow into earth-facing view. Looking at our CMEs, yesterday or earlier this afternoon, this was predicted to be a 180-degree hit, and now they have downgraded it to a 90-degree hit. That means we're only going to get the very edge of this storm. It is not going to be as big as what they thought it would be, but it's still going to be dense. And this is going to be very slow moving, but very dense storm. I doubt it'll top 500 or 600 kilometers per second. So it's going to be very slow moving, but the density is going to be out of the box. And that is what's going to make this storm a good sized storm. there is not, oh, well, maybe I'm wrong here. Most of what I looked at, that is on the outgoing limb, or an incoming limb. That's on the incoming limb. That's on the incoming limb. That's on the incoming limb. Incoming limb. Incoming limb. We do have a slow moving CME right here. That's a full halo right here. You can see it's the remnants of a full halo here. A lot of this is moving off away from us. But this stuff here that you can see coming here, at best is moving 508 kilometers, and at the slowest it's moving 665. If any of this is moving slow enough, this can catch it and push it. So it may increase the density a little bit, but I don't see a whole lot out there. I mean, that is lingering out there that it can catch up to. There is not a lot. Most of this will have already hit us, and most of the rest of it is on the incoming limb. So we have a high pressure cell that is building in over Minnesota and Wisconsin right now that is drawing this smoke down into the United States. We had very light smoke earlier today, and it is increasing. It has increased exponentially in the last couple of hours. So this is going to increase through tomorrow, and it is going to become much, much denser. Let's see if we can update it and see if there's anything more recent. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to have moderate density in smoke tomorrow. So I would not look for this to be really a great, particular good storm. NOAA has changed their timeline several times. Now it has looking like they are saying it could hit as early as 11 p.m. on the 18th through 8 a.m. on the 19th. So we could see it in the early morning hours, you know, right before midnight through the early morning hours. If NOAA is right. If NOAA is not right, and if Tamitha is right, this will hit more along the lines of 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and become more prevalent through the overnight, early morning hours into the 19th. So it is just a timing issue on that wind speed and the direction in which it is traveling. And I am not counting on, I generally don't bank on NOAA, because they are very conservative and they're okay with being wrong. They're not, they're good with an underestimate, not great with an overestimate. So they tend to underestimate and be wrong, then overestimate and be wrong. So I look for them to not be right. But the good news, two bits of good news. One, you have a developing coronal hole that's new here. You have a developing coronal hole that's new here. Those will take 3 days to hit us. You have 2 sunspots that are going to be right on the heels of that. So anything that they kick off when they're earth facing will catch up with that coronal wind speed and boost it up. That's one bit of good news. In the last 24 hours, we've seen this tiny coronal hole develop here. We've seen this tiny coronal hole develop. We've got a coronal hole down here. We've got a coronal hole here. We've got a coronal hole here. If this region continues to develop coronal holes, and if this region continues to intensify the size of these sunspots in the middle of these coronal holes, because these are baby sunspots. They're not full grown sunspots. They're still growing. They're still changing. They're babies. This could be your monster. You're watching a monster. If I was going to bank on anything, I'm going to say this has the potential of being the monster storm in 27 days. And it will hit right about the 14th, because we're at the 17th, so we're going to back it up 3 days. It's going to come around the 13th, the 14th. And this could be what gives us, if it continues to enlarge and gain in size, and if those coronal holes open up, if that sunspots that are in the middle continue to intensify and grow, that is the setup you want to keep your eyes on, because that will be what causes our big storm this time. We also have some players coming around the limb that we know are big players that have been kicking off steady big storms the whole time they're back there. So we still have some big players coming around the sun. But this region is in development. This one can have the potential of surviving all the way around the sun and developing into something coming around. So I'm going to leave you there. My encouragement for newbies: don't be so quick to pull the trigger. You've got to look at patterns, not listen to numbers. Numbers don't mean diddly squat. They could say KP5 all day long and still not see a thing. For the simple reason it could be a positive BZ and you won't see a thing. I do want to pull up. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Oh, goodness, where is it? Oh, maybe it's over here. No, it's not over here. Okay, hang on. I'm going to pull this up, and I'm going to show you why. Okay. This is my Aurora Alert app. This is not the accurate forecast. This is just a sample. Your first dial is your wind speed. It can be as little as 350 and still get auroras, and it can be out of the box over 900 kilometers and still get something fantastic. But when you start pushing 750, 800, 900, 1,000 kilometers per second, that's when you start getting blue auroras. They will look bright white in the sky, but when you put a camera on them, they will be brilliant royal blue, and you will get red. Not pink, but red when it starts pushing those fast wind speeds. The next dial is your BZ. BZ has to be a negative number to be seen in the north. Think bar magnets that you played with in school. If it's the same polarity, it pushes it away, it repels each other. But if it's opposite polarity, it's going to pull it together. Well, we're a positive. Earth is a positive in the north. So we've got to have a negative to see the auroras in the north. That wind has to be a negative to come into our poles. If it's not, it doesn't matter what that KP says, you're still not going to see anything. Okay? The next number is your density. If it's really low in the green, you're not going to see much. There's just not enough particles out there to react with the oxygen and the nitrogen in our air to make the light protons to create the auroras. Auroras are created by the helium, the radiated helium hitting our oxygen and nitrogen and creating a light proton, exciting them and becoming overexcited and creating light because they're hitting each other and combining and making a light proton. if we don't have very many of them, there isn't going to be a good show. And KP is an average. And it doesn't really look at the negative or the positive to tell us whether it's going to be good or bad. They're looking at worldwide. Okay? So in your Aurora apps, you've got to have that negative number. The wind speed and the density can be variable. Sometimes you'll have a really low wind speed, but a really heavy density, and you will have auroras like you've never seen before. Another time, you might have a really crappy density of maybe 1 or 2, 3, but the wind speed is so incredible that it will blow your mind. It's not a hard and cold science. It's variable. Okay? There's a lot of pieces and parts and moving things in here that make a difference that just looking at KP will not tell you. So if you look at that number and say, oh, it's going to be a KP6, I'm going to run up and drive 7 hours away because I know I'm going to see something. And you get up there and you're saying, where is it? And you didn't stop to look whether it was a positive or a negative BC, well, you kind of messed up yourself, because if it's a positive BZ, you're not going to see anything. Or if it's a super slow wind speed and a super low density, you're not going to see anything. KP numbers are only as good as the math. You know, sometimes it's not the same. I can say this from experience. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Like this past 3 or 4 nights, it's been saying KP4, KP3, KP334, or 4-3, and I've gone out and I checked every night, not getting anything. And it's because it's been a positive BZ. And we're really not there. And you won't know this until you've had the experience of going out and tracking every one of these storms and doing it for a lot of years to know the difference. So for all you newbies out there, I'm making this perfectly clear. This is not the storm you want to chase. The pattern of the storms we've been having in this little 3 or 4 day cycle here has not been good. They haven't been punching at full weight. It really hasn't been punching through and going above what NASA is predicting. It's going a little bit under most of the time. It's really not hitting the negative BZ we need. It's been mostly positive BZs. And it's really not been producing what NASA or NOAA has been predicting it's going to be. Plus, we haven't had the weather that would allow us to see it. There's been clouds, there's been high humidity, and we've had smoke. So based on all those patterns, I'm telling you, it is not worth a 5 or 6 hour drive for this one. Wait for it. It will come. I'm sure it will come. We're seeing signs of the sun starting to give us the things we need to create it if it makes it all the way around the cycle of the sun this time. But it's not here yet. So be patient. We have a lot of things that aren't working in nature that are really intensely off right now. Like here in Traverse City, we had turning leaves 2 weeks earlier than any other year I can remember. Even our driest year, because leaves will turn colors earlier if it's a really intensely dry year. We had changing leaves 2 weeks before the earliest time I've ever remembered them turning. We have a setup of a polar vortex starting already. That's going to change our weather pattern. The North Atlantic is warmer than it's ever been in any other year. Nothing is tracking the way it's supposed to right now. Something is in major upset, and it's got to do with our polar magnetic poles changing. It has to do with the solar cycle is where it's at, and it's a little bit different. And we're just going through a different Earth cycle. So we need to expect things to operate a little bit differently right now. And I'm saying this not only to our newbies, but to our experienced hunters as well. Things are rapidly and altering, and we need to know that that is going to alter how our auroras are starting to behave. This has been the first that I've really seen it starting to alter the pattern we've had for 8 months, where it clicks out of Earth facing and the sunspots start to kick up and get radically bigger and start to flare. Now I'm seeing them die down after they kick off something. So watch the patterns in nature. Don't just watch the numbers that NASA and NOAA give you. Watch the patterns. Watch the rhythm of nature around you. That's where the story will be. That's what NOAA and NASA forget. They don't use that in their predictions, and that's where we can predict how things will behave before they will, because we can guess how things are going to behave based on what they've been doing every month. Every month, sunspots tick into just about Earth facing, or they're just ticking into Earth facing, and they quiet down. And as soon as they get into Earth facing, they stay quiet for about 3 days that they're coming into Earth facing. As soon as they click out of Earth facing is when they start to build and they start to kick off more solar flares. That's been our pattern for the last year. Now I'm seeing a little bit of difference here. Maybe that's starting to change. Maybe there's something in our magnetic pole between Earth and Sun that is altering that we need to look at. Is one suggestion I have. Maybe there's something different there. All right, I'm going to leave you there. Everybody have a good night. For all of you that are looking for this app, it is on Android phones. It is Aurora Forecast app by it is really good. Anyway, I will let you go there. Everybody have fun.